L'Jarius Sneed is officially on the tag. What does that mean for the Chiefs moving forward? Let's talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. Thank you all so much for listening, supporting KC Sports Network. I am beyond elated to be back on the show, hanging out with my friends, Craig and Maddie. Guys, I want to just tell you something. I listened to your show last week that I wasn't on.
Damn it.
No, I did it.
That's not good.
I thought you guys did.
Okay, Maddie, you should start with your apologies first. We'll work our way into mine.
I ain't saying sorry for nothing. I meant every word of it. We are glad to have you back, Kent. The show is never the same without you. We talk a lot longer. We for over an hour. It's a grand time, but I am glad that you were back. I am also glad that we have come out of the combine. Granted, the next week and 3 days until free agency technically starts are my nightmare of the season, but it'll be over soon enough. So we are entering fun. We know the combine's fun. Free agency is right around the corner. It can be a fun time after the next 9 days.
Yeah, it can be a fun time after the 9 days, and we still have more Chiefs news to keep. They're really doing us a solid here, you guys. We don't have to just focus on the combine, despite what Maddie would really like to do. Only
I know
talk about the combine. We actually have Chiefs news to cover, so it's an exciting time right now. To win a couple back-to-back Super Bowls, we get stuff to talk about for weeks and weeks and weeks after the Super Bowl.
Maddie gets so mad during this time of year. It's so great. There is always just
the next 9 days are the absolute worst.
Oh, it's so fun. It's just so great. Anyway, so we'll start with the biggest news of the day. It's something that I think we've all anticipated. Oh, by the way, thank you, Kenny, with the code for pre-ordering the KCSN draft guide. By the way, you can do that as well. You're going to get 300 plus pages of Chiefs-specific draft content. If you click on the link in the description of the show, whether you're listening or whether you're watching this right now, you also get 3 months to KCSN Substack. So all the free agency breakdowns of all the players that the Chiefs eventually sign, you're going to see there. It's all the premium content that we have over at KC Sports Network. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Shout out with our guy Kenny with the Coke. He's been around forever, man. He's been around forever. I remember back when we first started podcasting, he was listening. So appreciate you, man.
Shout out Kenny.
Yeah, shout out Kenny. So I think he's from Louisiana too, if I remember correctly. We'll have to find that out.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. From Adam Schefter and several others, Chiefs have officially placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. They are open to trading him for the right price. That is one of the ways that it is being phrased. I believe Ian Rappaport also has some interesting insinuation, but no real surprises that the tag has been applied to L'Jarius Sneed. Maddie, this is kind of what we anticipated would be happening with the news last week.
Yeah, I mean, they told us that the tag was coming. I don't want to say drug their feet, but it took a couple days for it to come through. I don't think this is official or anything, but my gut feeling is they wanted to wait until they got to sit down and talk with L'Jarius Sneed's agents. And they did that. They came out of it. And it wasn't until post-combine, but then all of a sudden, I believe it was in the MMQB article, was the first time I think we heard any number attached to what L'Jarius Sneed might want. And that number was 20 million plus from Albert Breer in the MMQB. I'm not saying that's 100% accurate. We won't know until it gets signed, but just finally seeing a number and then the process the Chiefs went through, it sounds like to me the Chiefs and L'Jarius Sneed's camp are very far apart on what they want to think the compensation is or what each side wants. They wanted to give it some time to see if they could meet somewhere. It doesn't look like they're getting anywhere close to it. The tag becomes official. Now there's they've been talking about a trade as a possibility the whole time. So I'm not saying it just became one, but it seemed like they were leaving the door open for them to find a long-term deal. I'm going to guess now that seems very unlikely. He is now officially tagged. He is either going to be traded if the price is right, or they snuck it in again. It was, I believe, an Ian Rappaport tweet, or to play on the tag. That was finally snuck in at the end. That could mean absolutely nothing too. I want to be very clear. That could mean nothing, but it seemed like up until this point, the Chiefs weren't overly interested in trying to let Sneed play on the tag. It was all about extension or trade. Now they introduced a third option of him playing on the tag. So now essentially everything's open, probably a leverage play because that does help the Chiefs gain a little bit of leverage, but he's tagged. I don't see a long-term deal coming now. Like I just here seeing the $20 million number, I really don't see a long-term deal coming. Hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it. So now I think this is where the Chiefs kind of are, Craig. I mean, what's your feeling on how this has gone down?
This is closer to kind of how I thought it would be with L'Jarius Sneed. I wanted there to always be a long-term deal, but health issues, obviously his cost, and he's well deserving of being paid as one of the NFL's top corners. But it just made all the sense in the world for the Chiefs to tag him, be okay with him playing on the tag, try and see maybe you can work out a long-term deal over the summer. You just kind of wait and see, but you at least have club control over him. It was when all the information about, well, they could trade him came in that I went, oh no, it definitely felt like, oh man, L'Jarius Sneed might be gone here. There's a couple things in the landscape that have shifted. We're going to talk about one of them here towards the end of the show that may have kind of freed up some more money that the Chiefs are planning on spending this offseason that maybe makes them okay with franchise tagging L'Jarius Sneed, still trying to get a long-term deal done with Chris Jones. It's a lot of stuff that is still in motion here and will continue to be in motion for the next little while, but they are definitely listening to offers. We know that. We know that they that they're okay with trading him. It's not one of those things where, like the messaging that you hear about Chris Jones, where it's, we need this guy on the team. He is our top priority. There's optimism that we're close to getting a deal done, all of that. There's been none of that with L'Jarius Sneed. It's always been, hey, we're not afraid to use the tag on him. And hey, if you want to trade for him, come make an offer. We're willing to listen. We're hoping for some second round picks, but we're willing to listen there. Today, the kind of messaging shift more back towards the middle here of, we're not willing to just give him away. He's still very valuable to us and still can play on the tag, but we are willing to trade him. And I think that as it kind of moves more towards the middle, I'm starting to see some optimism that maybe he is playing with the Chiefs this year on the tag.
Yeah, and if you listen, Ian Rappaport, I can just read the entire tweet from today. The Chiefs have now officially franchise tagged L'Jarius Sneed, as they said they would. He has permission to speak with teams about a potential trade, making him an intriguing candidate to land elsewhere for draft pick compensation. If no trade, he may just play on the tag. I'll just be honest with you. I still don't have a ton of optimism. I know there's it feels like, and I know we're going to get to Chris Jones here in a little bit, but it does feel like these are not two independent situations. There's a lot of contingencies built into the Chris Jones situation and the L'Jarius Sneed situation, and they're keeping things relatively fluid. They have a direction that they want to go. The direction to me appears to be, hey, we're going to get a deal done with Chris Jones, and we are going to try to recoup some assets for L'Jarius Sneed. So we're going to keep one of our blue chips, but we're going to try to not come up empty-handed with both of these guys and falling on the compensatory formula, which we'll probably get to a little bit here as well. So I'm not overly optimistic. I think the course is kind of being set. I think the plan, if the Chiefs have anything to do with it, most likely is I don't think L'Jarius Sneed is getting a deal. I don't think they're going to be able to meet those numbers, so they're going to try to get some picks out of them, and Chris Jones is going to ultimately get extended. But let's talk about the possible trade compensation for L'Jarius Sneed. And Craig, I know you did some extensive research on this, and I saw this conversation is starting to pop up a little bit today on social media as well. People starting to examine some of the cornerback market, what cornerbacks have gone for historically. And on the KCSN Substack, you wrote a full article kind of detailing what it looks like and what it could potentially look like for a L'Jarius Sneed trade.
Yeah. Listen, we all love L'Jarius Sneed. We absolutely love him. We are hoping that if the Chiefs are going to move on from him, that it is going to be a very worthy pick that, can net them a really excellent
That was a good joke.
player.
I saw what you did there.
Thank you. I tried not to.
It, so I know. I got you.
Anyway, we're all hoping for a high round draft pick here. We are hoping that the Chiefs are going to be able to recoup the value of what L'Jarius Sneed means to this defense in either a massive offensive piece or a massive defensive piece to, kind of reclaim some of that. But the honest truth here is, Jalen Ramsey and Darrelle Revis, since the rookie wage scale was enacted, are the only players to have been traded for a first-round pick or a second-round pick in the upcoming draft. Now, both of those guys were traded for first. Jalen Ramsey, obviously 2 firsts. He had a year left on his rookie deal, and he was prime Jalen Ramsey. Darrelle Revis, prime Darrelle Revis. We love L'Jarius Sneed. He's not those two in their prime. He's just not. They're 2 of the greatest to ever play the game. We're looking at probably a third-round draft pick for L'Jarius Sneed. Now, the Chiefs are reportedly looking for a second-round draft pick here. They're really throwing that out there. We've seen it in multiple different picks. Reports.
Yeah, multiple.
And asking for multiple day 2 picks. So, maybe that's a couple thirds, but we should kind of get comfortable with this. I've seen a lot of different reports out there. Some of them are conflicting with each other. I've seen some people even say, hey, maybe it's a high second. I know PFF said that, oh yeah, you can definitely get a first for L'Jarius Sneed. The honest truth is, since the rookie wage scale, it has been very difficult to get more than a third-round pick for an NFL cornerback, especially one that reportedly, coming out today, wants $20 million per year or more. That is top of the market money. You're not going to see a team that's going to trade top of the market money or a high draft pick and pay top of the market money for this guy. It just hasn't happened. We have now 13 years of data since this has happened, and there have been 2 guys in all of this time, 2 that have netted a first and none that have netted a second in the current pick. Marcus Peters is the only one that was a future second. So this is it's just very much trending towards this is probably a third, closer to Darius Slay, closer to AJ Boye, closer to Ronald Darby when he was traded. That's even Jalen Ramsey this past year was a third-round draft pick. So look at some of those pieces there. Look at this cornerback draft class. Look at all this kind of coalescing into something that, as much as we want the highest possible draft pick, I think that the Chiefs really throwing it out there as much as they have, multiple day 2 picks or a high second-round pick, just really throwing that out there, is them trying to say, come get him for this much and you can have him. Otherwise, we got to talk.
Yeah, and I think that ends up being the sticking point, right? Is like us as Chiefs fans, we have a higher value on L'Jarius Sneed, I think, than anybody else does. I think Chiefs fans and probably the Chiefs themselves have a higher value on L'Jarius Sneed than anybody else, because I don't think he's entirely scheme specific, but there are certain teams where he maybe won't fit into the scheme as well. Other teams don't know enough about him, about the versatility. Some teams don't care as much about run defending, the ability to play. Like, there's a lot of things about L'Jarius Sneed's game that are perfect in Kansas City that might not either A, be a match with the new team, or B, might not be as important to the new team. So his value, I think, is going to be higher for the Chiefs than anybody else. The fact that we have gone 6 days now hearing second round pick, day 2 pick, multiple day 2 picks, round 2 pick plus, and nothing's been done, but it's been the exact same price over and over again. I wonder if they're not getting the offer that they want to really just let him go. They have not gotten the offer that they feel comfortable with saying, this is what I needed. Let's move on with it. That hasn't happened yet. Not saying it won't. It just hasn't happened yet. Now, there's a lot of people that feel pretty confident it's a second round pick. I've heard a lot of people compare this to the D Ford situation where everybody knew the Chiefs wanted to move on from him. They wanted to trade him, and it took them a while, but then they got that offer. They got the offer of the second round pick. They traded D Ford. It could go that route. I mean, we remember that pick ended up being kind of late, much to Kent's chagrin, but it was
a future second.
It was a future second. Valued as a third.
Woo. Yeah, and so the Chiefs have tried this before. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see where it goes. I don't foresee them getting a high second round pick for L'Jarius Sneed. At the end of round 2, I think it gets a little bit more enticing just because it does seem like there's a lot of smoke. A lot of people seem to say that they think he will get a second. A lot of national media people aren't saying that's what it will take. Their phrasing is he will get a second. Like that is their prediction. So I am taking that for a little bit of what it's worth. I just don't know quite. It's back to Craig's point. Guys, corners don't go for this much. Corners just don't go for more than that. And so I wanted to approach it with this too, because Brad Webb sent a super chat. He asked this question: how far up in the first round could the Chiefs get if they were going to package 32 and Sneed for a pick? Like, okay, I don't know if a team trading for L'Jarius Sneed is as interested in this or not. I have no idea, right? I have no idea if a team wants to move back in round 1 to take on L'Jarius Sneed's contract. But if they do, I'm generally going to say I'm going to value L'Jarius Sneed as an early 3rd round pick, right at the top of the 3rd round right now. I think that puts them at pick 22, 21. They could get L'Jarius Sneed in 32 if L'Jarius Sneed's worth an early 3rd round pick, gets you up to the Trent McDuffie draft range. That is essentially what that pick does. That's what that does for you. But that's it. You get no extra picks. You literally just moved up in the draft for getting rid of L'Jarius Sneed. If they are going to trade a cornerback, if they're going to trade a starting cornerback, do you want to do it and not fill a need? Or you're not going to fill a need or get extra draft picks to do so. You're not getting a player. You're not getting multiple picks. You're getting one shot. I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs are probably after draft picks more so than they are just moving up in the draft myself.
Yeah. So the value of moving from pick 32, let's call it to 22, is roughly the value of pick 60 in the draft. So it's actually even the value of a late second to get. Like if the Eagles came and said, hey, we'll swap picks, that's about the value of pick 60 roughly if the Chiefs were going to do that. And I want volume of draft picks. Like that's the thing, is like I don't want to just do a pick swap, to move on from L'Jarius Sneed. I want volume of picks. I want to have more bites at the apple for Brett Veach, especially considering you're essentially adding another need into the mix. Craig, you look like you had something you want to jump in here.
I do. I want to talk through, since we're throwing numbers out there. Our guy, our founder, KCSN's own BJ Kissel, was saying that there was a lot of smoke at the combine about Atlanta being a place for Sneed. And I've even seen some rumors saying that, Fields and, having to trade picks for Fields also might impact that, and L'Jarius Sneed and all of that. I think everybody's looking at pick 43 for Atlanta there. That would be a haul. Don't get me wrong. That would be incredible if the Chiefs could get pick 43 for L'Jarius Sneed. That's a really good one. I think it's more likely that maybe you kind of target Atlanta's got 2/3. So you send L'Jarius Sneed and maybe, another pick, hopefully not a third, for those 2/3. And because those 2/3 essentially equal pick, whatever, 45 or whatever it is that is around the Atlanta draft range.
You're in the ballpark.
You're in the ballpark. So
in the 40s.
Like trying to think if his value is like a late 2 or something like that, trying to maximize the number of earlier picks, trying to maximize the number of top 100 picks that you can add to in this class here. At that point, you can try and target a cornerback that you like a little bit more, that, that's kind of a nice range. This is a good cornerback class. So you could try and improve in some of those sorts of ways. That's kind of the creative math that I'm looking at there that would get you multiple picks, add volume to this roster that may need it there, even if you're sacrificing, like pick 133, your round 4 pick. You're letting that go to try and go get 2 extra round 3 picks. That's one that I would think really, really hard about if I was the Chiefs.
79 and 110 from Atlanta would it be roughly the value of pick 63.
Yeah, see, that's
volume.
a
now
late
you got
2 for him. Yeah,
you got 5 top 100 picks in a strong draft. Like that's pretty good there too. And even if the value of what the Chiefs get for L'Jarius Sneed is a little bit more muted, I do want to. We'll see. I am with Craig on the history of all this. I don't want to say a little devil's advocate.
Oh, I hope he bucks the trend. I hope he gets a second.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know. I'm just thinking through this a little bit, and it's like, if I'm the Chiefs are comfortable tagging L'Jarius Sneed and paying him $20 million on a 1-year deal, essentially, if they're not trading him. on top of the news of the Chris Jones stuff, on top of they're going to pull the lever and restructure Patrick Mahomes' contract. That's $20 million guaranteed to L'Jarius Sneed on a 1-year deal when you...
Let's ride.
Are we... The Chiefs are paying Chris and doing that and restructuring Mahomes and filling out the rest of the roster.
There's a lot of... There's a certain value there that we cross with L'Jarius Sneed. I see some people in the chat saying if it's higher than pick 45, I don't want to trade him. I'm kind of there. Like, he is an engine for this defense that matters. So I would be aligned with that. Yes.
I want to ride that road too. I want to play him on the tag. I think that's something they should have been more upfront about from the beginning. That should have been an option. Now, maybe it always was, and it just wasn't the way it was reported. We never said it was. Maybe it was just thrown in late. To Kent's point, I agree that everything they do is going to be part of a plan. I don't think the Chiefs are on a set plan right now, though. I don't think the Chiefs have to tag. Fluid. If they tag Sneed, they can't do this or have to do that or anything like that, right? So I think it's still open in the air right now. But if I'm not getting the value of L'Jarius Sneed that I want, which I pick 50 and above, I think it's worth it. Pick 50 and below, I just got to think about it. But I just go back to the point. If there's a certain point, whatever it is for you, play him on the tag. Play him on the tag. You can figure out the rest. It is what it is.
I just hear, and this is where I was going with it. I'm not sure the Chiefs' plan involves being that exposed to that much cash. Okay, so that's where
that's fair. It's not about cap. It's about cash.
It's about the cash. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm saying is, I don't think the Chiefs would be out on this limb. And I say limb because, oh no, good football players. I don't think, just the way the Chiefs have historically done business, I'd be a little bit surprised if they didn't feel like they were going to get good value for L'Jarius Sneed and putting him on this tag with the level of optimism that there is about Chris Jones. We'll get to that in a second. That's all. One other quick comment I just want to make. So, I know a lot of people talk about the compensatory 3rd-round pick that the Chiefs theoretically could get, just like the compensatory pick that they got for Orlando Brown last year. Oh, wait. Look, the Chiefs have not consistently, if one top dollar player's out, top player back in historically. Out goes Orlando Brown, in comes Jawan Taylor. All L'Jarius Sneed would do would be to count towards the compensatory formula. It might open up another pick, but it doesn't guarantee it's going to open up a third, because if they open the pocketbooks big enough next year, he's not going to count. They're going to wipe, it'll wipe each other, or this year it'll wipe each other out. If one of the players that they were rumored to be in on this year were to hit were to sign with the Chiefs, it would wipe it out. So I get the whole thing with the compensatory. It's a formula that has basically players counting each other, counting each other off, right? That's the way it works. So I don't know. I know what people are saying, but same thing. That's not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to get anything unless you actively tag and trade them. I think they have a plan. I don't think they'd be this exposed with all the cash, especially since there's a chance that they're going to sign Chris Jones. And we're going to talk about that right after the break.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
If you want access to KCSN Substack, you can get 3 months free with the KCSN Draft Guide when you pre-order it today. The book's going to release April 5th. You're going to get 300 plus pages of Chiefs-specific draft content, and you're going to get 3 months to KCSN Substack. Link is in the description of the show. So whenever the Chiefs eventually bring back Chris Jones and there's a analysis on that, you'll be able to find it there. Anyways, let's get into this. So I know that was a very optimistic take I just gave, but there is a lot of momentum and belief that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to come to terms with Chris Jones on a contract. From Adam Schefter saying this on Pat McAfee's show today. The Chris Jones deal isn't done yet, but the Chiefs would be surprised if they didn't get it done. There is a lot of expectation and belief that the Chiefs will get something done. Now, a lot can happen. Especially we've seen a lot happen in a Chris Jones scenario. But it does kind of seem like we are heading towards Chris Jones getting a contract to close out the prime years or best years, the remaining years of his time in the NFL, Maddie.
I'm going to continue to play devil's advocate this until it happens. Because Chris Jones is finally 9 days away from getting to test the free market for the first time in his career. And every decision that he has made since he's been in the NFL in regards to money has been about trying to maximize his money. I don't mean that in a bad way. That's what all players do or try to do, strive to do. Chris Jones accepting a deal from the Kansas City Chiefs before free agency starts would be him for the first time choosing to not maximize his money. I don't know if that's just going to up and happen when he finally has his first chance, because the franchise tag and everything before, his first chance at free agency. I don't think the Chiefs are going to pay him what he would get in the open market, so he would be having to choose to take less to play for the Chiefs. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen. I just don't know if I am ready to buy into that yet. I understand everything that has been said. It's been very, very public that the Chiefs are close to and trying to get Chris Jones' deal done. Very public every single day, multiple different reporters, multiple different sources. So that very well could mean it's happening. Or it could just be the game that is being played that's putting all the pressure on Chris Jones's camp to come to the table and make the deal. We've also heard reports that $27 to $28 million gets this done. No, it does not. I do not believe for a second that Chris Jones is signing for $27 or $28 million.
That number's got to have a 3 in front of it.
That number started with a 3. And if I don't think the second number is above a 0 if it's with the Chiefs. I think that's the realm you're working in. I don't think they are going up into I don't think they're passing Aaron Donald or Nick Bosa. I don't think they're passing Aaron Donald or Nick Bosa.
You just gave a giant range. It's going to start with the 3, and I think it's ended with the 0. What a range you just gave us.
Yeah, because it's going to be below the Aaron. If the Chiefs do it, I think it's below Aaron Donald's contract. I don't think they are going to pay him over Aaron Donald's contract. I don't think they're going to. And if you're Chris Jones, why are you not asking for more? Why would you not ask for more? You don't only have to deal with the Chiefs now. You can go ask 31 other teams for Aaron Donald money. You can go ask 31 other teams for Nick Bosa money. You aren't stuck with dealing with one team. So I have a hard time believing that this deal is this close to happening 9 days before he finally gets to do that. That's what my gut tells me. I understand all the words that have come out have said the opposite. And I could look like a complete goon if he signs for $29 million as soon as this podcast ends, right? As soon as we're done here, it's a possibility. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Would love that, by the way.
I really want you to look like a goon, buddy.
It's probably going to happen.
Yeah, probably. No, it has been so public. We were talking about this a little bit earlier in the DMs. It's been so public, the courting of Chris Jones, and I'm not exactly sure how to take it. We haven't seen...
Not just the courting, the entire offseason plan.
Sure. I was getting to some of that. But because it's been so public, like they have been, hey, buddy, we love you. Chris comes out and says at the parade, it's like, I want to be here forever. And the Chiefs kind of counterpunch with, we love you too, man. Yeah, there's pure optimism that we're going to get this done and we're going to offer a big contract to you. And we really, truly believe that Chris Jones is going to be here, so much so that we're using the tag on L'Jarius Sneed, and our options are you get a long-term deal with us or you take off. And we believe so strongly that number one is going to happen, that we are willing to move on with the rest of our plans because of all of this. And it's been so public that we are now seeing the L'Jarius Sneed saga also kind of have to be so, somewhat public here. They can't just torch L'Jarius Sneed and say, we really want Chris Jones back. We really need him to be with us. We love Chris Jones. And then turn around and go, yeah. This other guy we're putting a tag on. No, they be public about what they're doing here now because they've approached this with Chris Jones. Now, that could mean one of two things. It could mean they really believe it and they want everybody to know it and they want Chris to know it as public as possible. We need you here. We fully believe in you. I think that it was very telling what Diana Rossini said on the Athletic podcast, mentioned that, Andy Reid and Brett Veach want Chris Jones here. They want him here, but they're not the ones cutting the checks. She kind of essentially threw it out there. It's like, hey, listen, if it was up to them, he'd be here already. But there's only so much money, in the banana stand. There's always money in the banana stand. But, it's one of those that you're looking at and you're going, okay, there are some other elements to this that are at play here. And the Chiefs' continued public affection for Chris Jones is the real one true thing that is continued here. Now, it could also be that they've got an offer on the table for Chris Jones. And this is something that, Maddie has alluded to before, but they've got an offer on the table for Chris Jones. And they're being very public about, we need you back. We love you, buddy. We want you here. But here's the number. And if you're going to go somewhere else and take a higher number, well, we loved you. We wanted you back, but not at that price tag to try and play the PR game a little bit more. It is very odd how they've handled this offseason because we haven't seen this much public courtship of any player, since Brett Veach has been here. And it's just kind of a real twist on what we've seen here. So I'm curious to see what it means for Chris Jones.
They've kind of just like everything they've laid out on the floor or on the table, right? Like it's just like they've just been so open. I go back to like Brett Veach kind of saying how many contingency plans that they really have, for this offseason. And some of the chatter you hear and some of the chatter that's now public, it's like they maybe do have a lot of contingency plans, or they're just willing to spend a lot of money this year, which would explain why, L'Jarius, they're willing to, tag L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know. That's the question I keep asking myself. The Chiefs have guaranteed that they can keep at least one of those players if they truly want to. L'Jarius Sneed has been placed on the tag, so that does give them the ability to keep him if something falls through with Chris Jones. If Chris Jones comes to terms on an extension in the next week, I think that's where L'Jarius Sneed, the plans for L'Jarius Sneed really start to fall into place. Most likely, I think you guys talked a little bit about this. One of them's back next year. Like it'd be kind of a shocker if both of them weren't back.
I don't want to go down that path. You're going to see
dark.
An angry Craig.
It's too dark.
But I believe the whole concept of the contingency plans wasn't that not mentioned in one of the reports about them? Was they had a plan if both of them were not to be back? Now, I obviously don't think that's the Chiefs' preferred plan, right? Like that's not what they prefer.
They have to have that plan.
But they've prepared themselves for it. And I think the way kind of like a lot of stuff was phrased is like, hey, and this wasn't directly said, but I kind of get the sense that the past couple off seasons, Tyreek Hill's situation, Orlando Brown Jr.'s situations, Chris Jones' situation last year, they've kind of been caught. I don't want to say, stuck in spots or held like in any certain way, but they've had to go longer into free agency or longer into the offseason than you would think without really knowing where they were going to end up. I think they want to have a better idea early on, which then leads me back to this. They're being very public about everything with Sneed, public about everything with Chris Jones. I think they want to start free agency next Monday at 4 p.m. when tampering period starts. I don't think they want to start their offseason. They don't want to start their free agency, the next first week of April. They don't want to start it 3 weeks after free agency begins. They want to be ready to go as soon as the tampering period's open. So I think they're being just as open as ever because they want this information out if you're going to get trade offers. If this is going to help expedite contract negotiations with Chris Jones, because last year they stalled out, like not in the public, not saying this does help, but like whatever it may be, now it's in the public. Everyone now knows you're talking. You guys are trying to come together on a deal. Is that going to help usher it along now that it's not all behind closed doors? I don't know. It's just they want to be ready by next Monday. I think they are really tired of waiting longer into free agency to be really geared up and ready to go. They want answers. Chris Jones is going to be
2 years doing it. They're tired.
Tired.
Chris Jones is a big part of it. L'Jarius Sneed is a big part of it. That's what you hear a lot about. I don't know where the Chris Jones thing ends. Like I said, I think he's going to make over $30 million. I think he's going to make in the 30s. I think if it's the Chiefs, it's going to be at the very bottom. I think if he gets to the free market, he's probably going to make more than Aaron Donald. So he has to make that decision himself. What does he want? And where's like the middle ground? Where is he okay, quote unquote, settling in the dollars to play for the Chiefs versus where does he want to get the most money from? I think it'll be up to his decision. And I think the Chiefs want you to know that. I think they want you to know that. And I think that's kind of what we're getting through with all this stuff of we want you back. You're our top priority. It's just to Craig's point. Is he their top priority at $33 million a year to match, Nick Bosa? Or is he their top priority at whatever price they have decided that they want to pay him? Like that, I think those are two different things.
Are you guys done with the Chris Jones stuff? Because I think there's like a logical.
No, I'm good. We've talked about Chris for a number of weeks. I think everybody kind of knows where we stand on it. And
yeah. So, and it ties to all this because we're talking about a very public offseason so far for the Kansas City Chiefs, the most open of books, which is funny because I think Maddie made some kind of comment about how Brett Veach is playing the game better at the podium than he ever has, and yet everything else is just. I think it's strategic. There probably is some reasons. I'm trying to figure it out, or they're playing. Yeah, I think they're trying to get things. I think what you said is right. Ultimately, the intent behind it, we've been arguing in the DMs, but I do think they want resolution by day one of the new league year. They want to get going. They want to be able to be in where they want to be in. We've talked about contingency plans. And we've heard now that, basically there was one team that could negotiate with Mike Evans before the season started legally. It was a team
I was getting ready to say.
Yeah, and this is why I will say, I think the Chiefs, let's be honest, the Chiefs know what's going on with free agency right now, like every other team does too. But Mike Evans comes to terms with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a 2-year deal, making $26 million APY. We haven't seen all the details on all those numbers yet, but we know that Mike Evans is returning to where he's played in his career. Multiple teams had, and this is from Diane Rossini, multiple teams had Mike Evans on the free agent wide receiver board, and we're hoping to land him in free agency based on several team sources: Titans, Rams, Chiefs, among others. So the Chiefs were reportedly in on Mike Evans. I actually believe it just from some stuff. Yeah, I believe it. Anyways.
This isn't the first time we've heard of Mike Evans being tied to the Chiefs, everybody. There's been a lot of smoke around Mike Evans and the Chiefs all off season. Surprise, we've been hearing it, kind of from here and there. I heard it from some other sources that are non-Chiefs related, and that really perked my ears up. So, I do think that that's the case. And
actually,
and Adam Schefter coming out and saying Mike Evans was projected to be one of the top, if not top, free agent wide receiver available. The Chiefs, amongst others, were expected to be interested. You're calling out the Chiefs, not listing the others. The Chiefs were amongst it. We've been hearing his name all along here.
So what I think is just fascinating is there's been 3 big names out there that have some storylines kind of really surrounding them outside. Well, Baker Mayfield, I guess. But the Chiefs are part of the story of 3 players, 2 of their own, and this one. And there's a lot of intentions and stuff tied to the Chiefs. I find that very interesting. I don't know if Mike Evans was part of the contingency plan if they lose both L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones. I don't know if he was in conjunction with one of these guys coming back. Who knows? I just found it quite interesting how aggressive and intentional the Chiefs were to try to secure the talents of Mike Evans. I think they would have very much been in play if Mike Evans hadn't hit free agency. Maddie, here comes I see you cooking.
No, I was just, I didn't know if you were, I thought you were going to skip on without me getting to talk about Mike Evans. You seem like you were gearing up to change subjects. It seemed like you were gearing up to change subjects.
No,
I was ready to interrupt. I don't have anything to cook. We all heard the same thing from a couple different places. The Chiefs were interested in Mike Evans. And I think a lot of it was phrases the Chiefs are interested in Mike Evans in you hear that, you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, the Chiefs are going to offer him well below market value, but they are interested, or they gave a phone call to see what's going on there. And like DeAndre Hopkins last year, let's say they were interested, but never close to paying him what he ended up getting. That's the feeling you get from that when you hear Mike Evans and the Chiefs are interested. But no, it was said with no, they are interested. They would like to be involved. Now, I don't know if that means close to offering him $26 million a year, or if they were going to offer him 18 with $4 million in incentives. That seems also very Chiefsy, but it's just, they were going to be apparently competitive in the Mike Evans sweepstakes. Mike Evans takes his money to go back to play with Tampa, where he is now. I saw somebody in the chat earlier when we were talking about Chris Jones say, hey, Mike Evans signed before, but without testing free agency. He did. I also don't think Mike Evans is going to get more than $26 million on the open market. Right? I think that's the difference. If Chris Jones Chris Jones could sign with the Chiefs if they're going to pay him like the absolute top of his market value. I think Mike Evans went back because he got the number that he wanted, right? He got the top of his value with a team that he wanted to stay with. I don't think he took less. I don't think Mike Evans was about to break Tyreek Hill money, I guess is the moral of that story, right? So I think there was no reason for him, once that offer came in, for him to tempt free agency and go to another team. So I think that's what separates that. But I don't know what level the Chiefs were interested in, but they were planning on being competitive in the Mike Evans sweepstakes, and we will never find out what that ends at, right? But they wanted to spend. They wanted to spend on a wide receiver, and I think that's notable.
That is notable, and that's what I was going to kind of pivot towards, because I think you look at this and you're like, boy, this is an anti-Brett Veach move, a guy that's, going to be over 30, and, it's over 28. I don't know why I said it at 30, but over 28, trying to pay big money to. I think we now have enough of a through line to see guys that are mold breakers that Brett Veach is willing to pay for. Mike Evans, production, like consistent production, even sometimes with terrible quarterbacks. Not that Baker was terrible, but he played with some not great quarterbacks and put up 1,000-yard seasons. They tried to go get Trent Williams at the top of the market, a guy that was beyond some of the metrics that Brett Veach normally does. And now they're very publicly saying that they want to keep Chris Jones, a guy that's over 28. Like, if you've got production and you are still showing up in the thing, every year, they're willing to pay you top of the market. But by and large, they're not willing to take a chance, on a very long-term deal with some of these guys. The other thing that I look at here, it means that they're willing to spend on wide receiver. It means that they're willing to shell out enough money. Now, that's not going to say that they're going to turn around and offer Darnell Mooney $21 million. That's not going to happen. They've got values for all these guys. But to assuage some of the fears that people have, that it's just like, oh, they're barely going to dabble in the wide receiver market this year. No, I think that they're willing to pay. They know that they want to insulate Patrick Mahomes with better weapons, and they're going to be aggressive in trying to do so. That may have been the only guy in free agency that they were willing to be that aggressive with, but maybe we take a look towards the draft. Are they willing to make a significant trade up for a guy? Are they willing to try and sacrifice some of their future picks to make sure that they solve this here and now? It opens up a lot more doors here. They are not operating under the circumstance that they did last year, where it's just like, well, it'll be fine. Patrick will solve everything. They are trying. They're actively out here trying to sign guys. And the final thing that I'll say about Mike Evans here, it's I don't know that it's a terrible coincidence that the Chiefs come out, they're associated with Mike Evans, according to everybody and their dog in the national media here. They were willing to throw a chunk of money at Mike Evans. Like that was just going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, Mike Evans signs with Tampa. And again, I talked about that pivot with L'Jarius Sneed. Maybe that money. Maybe they're looking at that money and going, oh, hey, well, there was $20 million that we were going to spend on this wide receiver over here. Well, our next guy that's a priority on our list is we're fine paying L'Jarius Sneed $20 million to play on the tag this year. So I wonder if those two are related, that we're seeing some of the kind of the plan B-ish, kind of thing there play itself out in real time.
Just tying them all together. Maybe the day one of free agency is the deadline, the natural deadline the Chiefs have set for themselves. This is just me speculating, right? But they're ready to make a different move on a different blue chip player like a Mike Evans if something with Chris Jones falls through. These are the kind of things I'm thinking through. I still actually genuinely believe they're all tied together in some capacity. Yes, including the interest in Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans might have been a contingency because just looking at the cash, again, how much cash is this team really willing to spend? Were they going to pay cash? Are they going to pay cash to Chris Jones and Mike Evans? Are they going to do that? I don't know. So I do wonder how tied together all of these are, but everything is kind of out in the open right now because, it has to be. So I don't know. It's interesting to me. That's all. So Mike Evans is off the table. We'll see what the Chiefs' plans are moving forward after this. NFL Combine just wrapped up yesterday. And A lot of interesting stuff happened in that. I want to say first things first. Glad we got on the Xavier worthy bandwagon early.
And the tip Ryman one. Let's not minimize what my
don't forget the tip.
Well, that's gonna do it. No. Round one, we had
just for a second.
Right before the mock, or right before the combine, we did our little mock exercise. Pick 32, went with Xavier Worthy. People hated it. Goes out. Goes out and breaks the NFL's combine speed record.
Yeah, people were not happy.
It was not everybody was pissed, but there was plenty.
Of course not. It's a mock draft. You are going to make 80% you're going to make 80% of the people mad with every pick you make, and 20% of them are going to think it's the
Maddie.
No, because 20% of the people also love him. 20% of the people are Texas fans. You know, there's a Texas following down there. You had some Patrick Mahomes fans when he was growing up. You know, you got some Texas followers. But yeah. Xavier Worthy, I think, is a good place to start because he went out and just broke a combine record, big deal, and then said, "Oh, hey, I'm good. I don't need to do any more drills. my day is set now." So yeah, that was cool to see. Like, running a 4.21 is awesome. Do I think there's a huge gap between a guy that ran a 4.3 and a guy that runs a 4.21? No, probably not. They're both really dang fast in the NFL. It's cool to have it. They're both really fast. I think it's more notable that you just have a guy that I think is a good wide receiver that happens to be that fast. He's not like other really fast wide receivers in the past that weren't good until their final year of college.
John Ross.
Or guys that maybe switched from cornerback to wide receiver while in college and didn't really know how to play position.
Hardman.
Like, he's a wide receiver that's fast. That's cool. That was awesome. It was fun to watch. Everybody had a lot of fun watching that. And it was cool. The fans were there. I think that made it really cool. Yeah. There's a lot of receivers. I think there was 9 wide receivers that ended up under 4.4. It was an insanely good performance from the entire wide receiver group. Who else kind of caught your guys' eye?
Oh man, I know that the Chiefs have no chance of drafting Rome Odunze, but I love that he did all the testing and that he was super dissatisfied with his 3-cone. Like, he ran it and went, "Nah, I'm faster than that." And they did it like 4 times, trying to get down to the 6.6 that he trained for. A lot of these guys, and it's very frustrating. I do the CBAT thing, love to do the CBAT thing. These guys rarely test agilities anymore. It's just not the avenue for them. They would much rather do it on a field where they feel much more comfortable with their footing. They are much more concerned with the 40 time at the combine. And then they don't want to switch to a different set of spikes and get used to a different surface to try and run some of these agility drills. So they just don't run them. So I always appreciate it when guys go out there and they do the full complement of tests. And a guy like Rome Odunze, that's a top 10 pick probably in this draft, is just like, nah, I can do better. I want to keep running the 3-cone. I thought that was just so awesome of him to keep putting in that effort. That was really cool.
I think it's insane if he doesn't go top 10. I just he's oozing football character. He's literally, Bears. I think the Bears are the floor.
Oh yeah.
Imagine Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze together. It'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. One guy I don't know if we've talked about him yet. I don't know if we mocked him to the Chiefs recently. If the Chiefs took Mason McCormick in the top 100 picks, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
Yes. We talked about him a little bit during the Shrine Week, but man.
In the top how many picks?
Top 100.
The Chiefs have currently 3 picks in the top 100, and you're going to use one of them on an offensive guard when we're talking about all. Okay.
Yes.
I love Mason McCormick too. I love Mason McCormick. I think he's great, and he hopefully goes top 100. The Chiefs are a bold landing spot in the top 100.
I think one of the Chiefs' top 100 picks will be on more of a future investment. 100%. I do. This is how they've operated historically. I think one of their picks will be a player that is more for the future, and the Chiefs are potentially going to lose their entire interior offensive line next year. So yes, I said what I said. Go ahead. Well, I'll continue to talk about this. So Josh Norris has been doing some very interesting stuff when it comes to the short shuttle. And it's basically kind of, players that have a sub 4.48, I think, short shuttle wind up being consistently on the interior of the offensive line, period, they typically pan out pretty well. Mason McCormick was one of those guys that did it. In fact, had one of the best athletic profiles in the history of the interior offensive line. His relative athletic score was 9.96, and he had a 4.45 short shuttle. The tape is really good. And the Shrine Bowl was very good to him as well. He's a great athlete. He's shown to have some positional versatility, long arms for the interior. Sounds a little bit like an Andy Reid interior offensive lineman, if you ask me. So yeah, he's another guy I thought just had a really, really good performance for him. So good on him. And again, I wouldn't be stunned to see the Chiefs investing in the interior of the offensive line earlier than we're all thinking right now. So
I do want to. Derek Hernandez has a super chat here, and I was actually going to bring up this guy. So hey, thanks, Derek. With how he last year with the wide receiver group, do you think the Chiefs will prefer a wide receiver like McConkey over Worthy? I could absolutely see that. Ladd McConkey did not test poorly. Ladd McConkey is a really good athlete.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. The whole receiver class was good testing. Yeah. Adonai Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell. Like all these guys, and talk about Ladd McConkey.
Who are we making fun of about pronouncing names?
Yeah,
Anyway, go ahead.
I had it right earlier than everybody, and then I screwed it up just now.
Adonai. Ladd is an excellent wide receiver that does so many things well. If you told me that the Chiefs preferred Ladd to Worthy, I would 1000% believe it. I would. He's ready to go day one. Not that Xavier Worthy is a guy that you have to sit there and try and develop and spend a whole lot of time. He's a real wide receiver as well. I know people look at the 169 pounds, a 4.2 140, and they just say, okay, he runs one route. No, he runs lots of routes. He's a very fluid runner. This isn't McCole. He's not stiff. He's able to break stuff off, run a full route tree. Ladd is excellent at the full route tree already. He's got that in him. And so, you wanted to tell me that they love that guy and they really want him to be on this team and that they think that he could just walk right in with Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and let's call it Hollywood Brown for whatever reason. Now all of a sudden you feel really good about your wide receiver group and you feel really good about the different areas of the field that you can attack. And I totally understand that preference if that's one that you have. I really do get that.
Yeah, it would all depend on the type of, I think, wide receiver that they choose to go for, right? And I don't think either one of Ladd McConkey or Xavier Worthy are entirely one-dimensional players at all. I think they both can do multiple things, but neither are what you're going to call a complete, number one wide receiver, and that's why they are potentially available at pick 32 and not in the Rome Odunze tier of going in the top 10, right? There's a gap there for a reason. It all depends. Do they want a guy that's probably going to be a little bit more reliable, a little bit more technical in Ladd McConkey, but a guy that I don't want to say he's not dynamic because he is. I want to be very clear. He is, but he's not to the same level of dynamic that Xavier Worthy is. So do they want someone that can stretch the field to open up stuff for a Travis Kelce, for Rashee Rice, for whatever wide receivers they had in free agency? Or do they want to get that pure deep threat? And again, McConkey can run. He runs vertical routes, but it's usually more off double moves. It's usually off of setting stuff up. It's not what you would consider a typical field stretcher. So do they want to get that in free agency and then use Ladd McConkey in the voided space? It all depends on the route that they would like to go. I think the Chiefs, we've seen it, they haven't had success with getting them after Tyreek Hill, but they are consistently trying to add a vertical player. They are consistently trying to add somebody that can really use Patrick Mahomes' arm. And we've seen guy after guy fail because they can't track a football, because they can't play wide receiver very well, because they can't do X, Y, or Z, right? And this isn't shots at anybody. Just they have routinely tried to add true deep speed since Tyreek Hill, and they just haven't hit on some of the right players. The guys haven't panned out. They haven't been able to get it to work. So I don't think I can completely rule out the idea that they might take another small wide receiver that is good at taking the top off. I also would love a Ladd McConkey there. Move on to some other positions. There was some big running backs that were athletes out there. You had some guys that ran, I think a lot of people were excited for Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. He ran kind of slow, right? No, he ran
kind of.
But that's going to push him down the boards. He's a guy that's explosive, just can't run. He's a guy that, did the opposite. Then you have Garindo from Louisville. Isaiah Pacheco clone coming out. Just a big-bodied back, super fast, super explosive. The running instincts need a little bit of work, but that's the kind of guy the Chiefs are interested in. Guys that move like that. Jalen Wright from Tennessee, probably going to go before the Chiefs pick. maybe not as big or thick as like a Pacheco or a Grindo, but like another guy. Like those are the type of guys the Chiefs seem to be trending towards in the running back room as of late. So there's some big explosive running backs that I think tested well that the Chiefs could look at later in the draft. I don't know how expensive they'll want to spend on a running back, but like there's some guys in this class that fit their usual go-to.
Isaac Grindo, little Damian Williams-ish, if you ask me. Some linebackers to look at. We can get to some defensive side of the ball here a little bit. Peyton Wilson runs out of the gym, runs a 4.43.
Outrageous, man. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Good for him. Obviously, like the medicals are going to be a big concern for him. I think, there's been a lot of issues and injuries that he's had to deal with. So the medicals is everything for him. Trevin Wallace and Adrian Cooper. Adrian Cooper 4.51. I thought he might run a little bit faster than that, and I think if he did, he might even see himself, climbing up the draft rankings a little bit more. Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky as a kid, he's a really young player, and he ran a 4.51, but he's doing it in. I think he was in the high 230s at the NFL Combine, and I mean he was playing in the 240s at Kentucky, so he's just a big, dense, fast, athletic, young prospect. And good on him. I was really excited for him because he's one of my kind of favorite players at the linebacker position. So, there's a couple linebackers that did good for themselves this week.
Do you want me to go? I'm going to go corners because corners are my thing. I really got to enjoy the cornerback testing as I always do here. Pro days are going to shake out the rest of the CBAT guys. We have 5 right now after the combine. 5 tier 1 CBATs there. I'm going to give you guys one. Just one. I'm going to give you guys one and a guy
buy the KCSN draft
guide for the rest of them, and there will be more. As the pro days shake out,
pick a name they don't know, so they're enticed to come back. No,
pick a name that they don't know. I was going to pick a guy that the Chiefs are going to have no shot at, in Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo. He's going to go before the Chiefs draft a guy that really tested well. Was kind of on the fringe throughout it. What put him over the mark? His bench press. That's a historic thing. You can really see the amount of effort that cornerbacks put in. I know that that's one of those things. When I initially was looking at CBAT, I looked at this and I went, nah, no chance. I'm not including the bench in this. But you see consistently throughout the course, since I've been doing this since 2010, you see guys that put in that level of effort. It does actually translate a little bit of success. Him putting up 20 reps in the bench is outrageous for a corner. That just doesn't happen. Guys don't do that very often. Just kind of shows the work ethic. He's not just, pure athlete here. He's coming out of Toledo. You really feel good about a guy like that. I think one of the guys that I was maybe a little less impressed with the testing was Terrion Arnold. A guy that we all like and probably is going to be the first cornerback off the board. Did not test super well. Like, he was fine, but nothing that was really groundbreaking. And as a guy that had played safety prior to this year, you were kind of hoping that, he's going to test like just an absolute monster. He was going to come through and just blow the doors off of the combine. There may be some people that are looking at Quinion Mitchell and the way that he's playing and looking at Terrion Arnold, fully understanding that the level of competition for Arnold is significantly higher than what Mitchell has had. But you look at those two guys and you say, maybe I want the guy that's got a little bit better, athletic profile, that has been doing this a little bit longer, that's going to be able to come in and play right away and really feel good about it. Arnold, you got to mold just a little bit, just, the very slightest bit, really smart player that's going to come in and play at a high level for a team, but maybe doesn't have the same ceiling as like a Quinion Mitchell. I don't know. I think that coming out of this week, that conversation is going to change a little bit just because Terrion Arnold didn't blow the doors off of the combine the way that maybe some people thought he might.
All right. I'm going to lightning round a couple D tackles just in case Chris Jones doesn't come back, or hey, even if he does, the Chiefs still need some D tackles.
Yeah, they do.
In room right now, right? So some D tackles that stuck out. Braden Fisk, everybody saw all of his testing. It was exceptional. I don't know if he's a great fit for what the Chiefs have traditionally liked to do, but with Joe Colin, things are getting a little different. The shorter arms might not be as big of a deal. The fact that he's just like a pure penetrator, we'll see how that one goes. Two other guys that I thought tested well enough, but looked really good in some of the field drills. Mason Smith out of LSU, 6'5", super long arms, young kid, been injured a lot at LSU, but super highly recruited guy. The flashes are there, and I thought he looked exceptional in the drills. And then Rook Orororo is out of Clemson. Yeah, Kent, that's right.
Rohura?
Out of Clemson, I thought that he's a guy that has all the physical tools, but he's had an up and down career. It seemed like this last year he maybe lost a little bit of interest of battling through the Dabo Swinney kind of college mantra. Things weren't going great for the team as a whole. He just didn't seem as interested this year. 2 years ago, I thought he was a lot better. So I think there's going to be some D tackles there in the mid rounds that have the physical profile, that have the skills and the traits that I think that Spags would look for to come in and step in on that defensive line if they need to go that route.
All right, well, that was a lightning round on some of the players that we really liked at the NFL Combine. Thank you all so much for listening to this show. Thank you all so much for supporting KC Sports Network. We appreciate you. We'll be back later in the week. We'll catch you later.
Can't run over an hour.
Xavier Worthy.